In what has been described as one of the most intense and emotionally charged political confrontations in South Africa's recent history, the widow of the late Nathi Mthethwa today publicly confronted and sharply rebuked senior officials of the African National Congress, ANC, demanding their immediate arrest. The explosive scene unfolded at the ANC's national headquarters in full view of television cameras and a large gathering of journalists, sending ripples of shock through political circles and leaving ordinary South Africans questioning the moral integrity and ethical standing of the country's governing party. Those present described an atmosphere thick with raw emotion, visible tension, and unrestrained fury as DU's widow, visibly distraught yet resolute and unwavering, stormed into the media briefing room and directly challenged the party's top leadership. "I will not allow my husband's death to be buried beneath lies and cover-ups," she declared, her voice cutting clearly through the crowded room and momentarily silencing even the most jaded observers. "I demand the immediate arrest of everyone who bears responsibility, those who turned a blind eye, those who plotted, those who stayed silent, and those who failed to act when they should have. Justice cannot and will not be delayed." A collective gasp swept through the hall as her words landed with chilling precision. The confrontation quickly intensified when several high-ranking ANC officials attempted to dismiss her accusations as unfounded and politically motivated. Yet the widow, armed with what she described as conclusive evidence, refused to yield. Speaking with unflinching determination and pointed language, she accused the officials of deliberately obstructing investigations, mishandling vital intelligence, and even participating in decisions that knowingly endangered her husband's life. "I did not come here to play politics," she continued, staring directly at the party leadership. "I came here for justice. If the rule of law means anything at all in this country, it must apply equally to everyone, no matter how powerful." Her statement triggered stunned murmurs and a storm of camera flashes from journalists who had arrived expecting a routine press conference, not a public showdown that threatened to redraw the country's political landscape. Sources close to the widow revealed that over the past several weeks she had painstakingly compiled documents, encrypted audio files, and sworn statements from confidential witnesses, material she believes unequivocally exposes widespread corruption and criminal negligence within the ruling party. According to insiders familiar with the dossier, it includes minutes from closed-door meetings, private communications between senior officials, and internal directives that allegedly show a deliberate effort to suppress warnings about threats to DU's safety. One person briefed on her preparations remarked, "This is not an outburst born of grief alone. This is a meticulously built legal case that could rock the ANC to its core." Political analysts were swift to call the incident historic and potentially transformative. "It is extraordinarily rare for a bereaved family member to confront the governing party so directly and in such a public forum," noted Table Mokis, a prominent political commentator. "What we witness today goes far beyond a personal cry for justice, it amounts to a public indictment of the entire leadership. The depth of the fractures inside the ANC is now impossible to ignore." The reaction was instantaneous and far-reaching. Within minutes, social media platforms exploded with commentary. Hashtags demanding #justice for DU and calling for an independent investigation into his death rapidly trended nationwide. Thousands of South Africans voiced their support for the widow and their outrage at the allegations on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Television stations interrupted regular broadcasts to air the unfolding drama live, while radio talk shows were flooded with callers insisting on accountability and transparency. Spontaneous protests erupted in major cities. Demonstrators gathered outside ANC offices in Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town carrying placards that read, "Justice for DU, no one is above the law," and "End corruption now." Protest leaders urged the government to address the growing public anger before it spiraled into wider unrest. Meanwhile, the widow's legal team announced that formal criminal complaints would soon be filed against several named senior ANC officials whom she holds directly responsible for concealing or downplaying the threats that led to her husband's death. Legal experts warn that, Should her evidence prove authentic and admissible, the consequences for the ANC could be catastrophic, ranging from forced resignations and internal disciplinary hearings to full-scale criminal prosecutions. Constitutional lawyer Thandi Makona described the situation as potentially one of the largest corruption scandals of South Africa's democratic era. Even seasoned ANC veterans appeared shaken by the widow's defiance. One anonymous party insider called the confrontation a moment of reckoning no one saw coming. The source added, "She walked in front of the cameras deliberately and without fear. It's clear she is not bluffing, she is prepared to see this through to the end, wherever it leads." In the hours that followed, senior ANC officials reportedly held emergency closed-door meetings. Accounts from within the party suggest the discussions were tense, with some members advocating full cooperation with any investigation while others pushed for a unified front, dismissing the entire episode as an orchestrated political attack. The party's communications office released a brief statement condemning the accusations as deeply regrettable and entirely without foundation, but the statement did little to calm public fury. Pressure is now mounting on President Cyril Ramaphosa to issue a formal response. Opposition parties have been quick to seize the moment. The Democratic Alliance openly endorsed the widow's demand for accountability, while the economic freedom fighters called for Parliament to convene an urgent sitting to debate alleged corruption and impunity inside the ANC. Civil society organizations, human rights attorneys, and anti-corruption watchdogs have rallied behind the widow, offering legal assistance and public advocacy to ensure her case is not buried under political pressure. Across the country, public sentiment is shifting dramatically. For many South Africans, the widow's stand is no longer seen merely as a personal quest for justice but as a broader symbol of national frustration with unchecked power, entrenched corruption, and institutional decay. "She is fighting for all of us," said one protester outside ANC headquarters. "Her courage is exactly what this country has been waiting for. For too long we have watched the powerful walk away unscathed." Another demonstrator called the day's events a defining moment for our democracy, a real test of whether justice can still prevail in a system that feels so thoroughly compromised. Inside the ANC itself, divisions appear to be widening. Some senior figures are reportedly urging transparency and cooperation, warning that continued denial risks permanent damage to the party's reputation. Others, however, are said to favor a defensive posture, framing the widow's allegations as part of a broader campaign to weaken the ANC ahead of upcoming elections. Whatever internal strategy ultimately emerges, one reality is undeniable: the scandal has plunged the ANC into a political crisis it can no longer sidestep. As night fell over Johannesburg, journalists remained camped outside the party's headquarters awaiting any further official reaction. The widow herself had already left the building, flanked by supporters and her legal team. Before departing, she delivered a final, resolute statement to the waiting media. "I will not be silenced. I will not accept half-truths or excuses. And I will not rest until every single person who contributed to my husband's death is held fully accountable before the law." Her words have reverberated across the nation, striking a chord with a public exhausted by scandal, betrayal, and unanswered questions. The country now waits, tense and watchful, for what comes next. Which officials has she named? How will the ANC respond to this unprecedented challenge? And above all, will South Africa finally see justice for Nathi Mthethwa? With investigations on the horizon and political pressure intensifying by the hour, one thing is certain: what began as one woman's fight for answers has grown into a national turning point. A widow's pursuit of justice has become a broader struggle for truth, transparency, and the very soul of South African democracy. For Nathi Mthethwa's widow, the path ahead remains perilous and uncertain, yet her unyielding resolve has made one truth indisputable: no one, no matter how powerful, stands above accountability.